Starting with the puppy show early this week. Hi, buddy.
Are you good boy? Good boy. Don't lick me in my face. Don't lick me in my face.
What's up, guys?
Get out.
Friday night, and we don't have a lot of show plans, so we're doing a lot of winging it. As you could tell, the dog was hanging out pretty early. We have some things to discuss. We don't have a lot planned. We actually have some more filming to do when we're done with this. One minor thing that you might notice, I'm not sure how the audio quality is. We got new mics and haven't had a chance to test them yet. So if you're hanging out and watching, let us know how the audio is. We changed to nothing except for plugging the new mics in.
Hopefully they work.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm gonna sticker bomb my water bottle with these here fun new makers.
Rem, you want to tell the people why we got new mics?
Well, when we finished filming last week, there was an incident in the studio. There was a big incident in the studio. So, I am a very big proponent of as many things in my world using one connector as possible. And everything gets bonus points for me when I'm looking at purchasing something if it uses a USB-C connection. Well, cameraman Beau remarked that our microphones needed to charge following filming last week for our video that's coming out Monday. And one of our 100-watt lights in the studio uses a rather large transformer brick and a Type-C connector. So, being the absolute big brain genius that I am, I thought, hey, there's a free Type-C, we'll just unplug it from the light. And my rationale was, I'm no stranger to plugging small electronics into high-capacity USB ports, or high-capacity USB adapters. Well, as it turns out, I greatly miscalculated the power of the adapter used to power the light, and the amount of power that our DJI mics could handle.
I would like to point out, I actually asked the question, hey, is it going to be a problem to plug this USB cable connected to that very large brick into these mics?
I was under the assumption that no.
And Rem said, it should be fine.
Which, if you've been here for a while, you'll know that's one of my catchphrases.
Does it to me all the time.
Pretty regularly.
This will be the moment I forever point to when he says it from now on.
So, I was under the impression that everything was going to have the ability to self-regulate its power down to a reasonable level. I was wrong. The moment the cameraman Beau plugged the lights power adapter into the DJI mics that we really didn't have it in the budget to replace because we're saving for a new camera right now. There was a loud chirping noise.
And a pop.
Which was everything inside the charge case shorting and our mics frying. It was tragic. I had to have some sit on the floor reflection time. And, well, did you have to change your pants? Pretty close?
Yeah, I thought that I had just hard shorted several lithium batteries that were about to explode in my hand.
See, we have a friend who made a wonderful device for rendering lithium batteries no longer operable, aptly named the battery guillotine. So we know what happens when lithium batteries explode and they turn into small rockets full of fire that you're not putting out with a household fire extinguisher. So that vicious, sharp pop was a horrifying noise, made even more troublesome by the fact that it was in this man's hand.
Yeah, I was concerned for a moment. that I was about to be handed.
That means without hands. Luckily, we didn't have to test out his medical insurance. And we escaped with only having to order a new microphone, which was not an investment that either of us were prepared or really wanting to make in this moment. Now, it's been in the plans since they were released to purchase these new DJI Mic 2s to replace our Mic 1s, but it wasn't, strictly speaking, a necessity. We were going to do it because the camera we're saving for is an Osmo Pocket 3, so we can take it to Murph with us after I broke the Pocket 2 months ago by sitting on it and then it falling out of my pocket. Bad times.
We've had some mishaps in the studio as of late.
We have destroyed several $100s of camera and audio equipment, either directly or indirectly my fault. Being said, we've learned some things. Don't put expensive cameras in your back pocket. Don't plug random USBs into your sensitive electronics. And when it comes to dealing with voltage, don't trust me. I am not an electrician. I don't even play one on TV.
As far as directly or indirectly being your fault, genuinely the camera, that could have happened to anybody. That was an accident.
It was, but it didn't make me feel better.
I would have never even sort of thought to plug those mics into the cable for that light. And I even had apprehensions about it when you told me to do it. You can take that one all day.
I accept responsibility, but I'm going to say that you are the one that plugged it in. You had all opportunity to override me.
I was leaning on your experience with electronics.
And again, you know, I'm not the one that hardwired 12 volt to 120 and blew up a control board for my multi-material unit and let the magic smoke out of the magic smoke loop. Love you, buddy. Nick, can you tell us how our audio is? That was a really long story for why we have new mics and why the audio might not be great. But Nick, can you let us know if we sound good? Or at least sound how we normally sound? This is especially important because we have filming to do after this, and I would really not have to go through a bunch of tests if we can avoid it. Really cool. Our next video coming out next week is going to be our first video with a financial sponsor. I don't want to give too much information about that away, but we have some companies starting to support us, and it's really exciting. So we have to film that ad spot after this, and I'm really excited. 3 people in here. That's pretty cool. Also, we're getting ready for Murph, which means our Murph merch has started to come in. I thought it'd be fun, since there are 3 of us going, me, Beau, and Nick in chat, if we all had some cool RTMS stuff going on. So, as you can see, Beau has a swanky new hat on with the channel logo, and we'll address the purple thing on there in a minute. That's actually going to be...
It's called accessorizing.
It's... I can't with you. Functions like a little shelf. Nick says we sound fine. All right, awesome. That's good. So, cameraman Beau got a sweet new hat. I also got a sweet new hat, rtms.tech. And we got, for our good buddy Nick, one of my favorite shirts from our lineup, which I did the artwork and designed. It says, "Level your bed." Really important to me that our merch line is for more than just people who enjoy watching our show. I want to make merch that appeals to all sorts of 3D printing enthusiasts.
I'm amused that that shirt has been in my house for all of 45 seconds and is already covered in Diesel's hair.
Well, you got a hairy dog. Want to see? It's fine. Nope. I was trying to avoid us both having our backs to the camera. It's pretty rude of us.
Well, we're rude people, and people will get over us being rude people.
I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have this in the... There we go. In the background.
That is pretty dope.
It is. I love the design. I might be a little biased because, well, I designed it. But anyway, I want our merch to be kind of fun stuff that goes beyond just the channel. And telling people to level their bed is one of my favorite tropes in 3D printing when you're looking for troubleshooting advice, especially about layer adhesion.
The dog has returned.
He likes to hang out. He's a good boy. He's awfully needy, though.
He is being needy tonight. Don't lick me.
So, the Level Your Bed shirt is just one of my favorites. I want to come up with more cool 3D printing themed shirts, and have been working on trying to exercise some of that creativity to make more cool 3D printing related shirts. If you guys have any ideas, I'm definitely open to that. So, some kind of cool stuff that we have going on. I'm going to be completely honest. I have not been doing a lot of 3D printing here recently. We've kind of received more lasers to work on, so most of my free time has been spent doing that and just recouping after long work days. So today was actually the first time that I ran a printer in a few weeks. And I actually made the snazzy purple apparatus from Cameraman Beau's hat here. And this is a pretty cool thing. I actually want to show you guys
my hat clip, kind of like a tie clip, but for hats.
Actually, I want to show you guys this model. We're gonna go to screen cap. So I want to show you guys this model. I found this over on Printables. It was designed by Bradley Coral, and it is designed to bend the bill of a hat. If you get a hat that comes with a flat bill, and you don't wear a flat bill hat, you're going to want to actually bend it into its final shape. So I thought, what better use of 3D printing than to make a hat bending jig? And this one's pretty nifty because it's got I mean like 3 ways that you can actually bend the hat. One of them is by inserting the hat through the actual frame, and then it has 2 different posts that stick up. And I really like the idea behind this model. Something that you can do to kind of accentuate and make the bend better is apply some heat. If you have a steamer for clothes, you can do that, or you can take a gentle approach with a heat gun to relax the plastic inside the bill of the hat. But the concept, pretty straightforward. You just take your new hat and you bend it into the jig at whatever point you like the best.
And your hat says, "This isn't even my final form."
So you can actually start training the hat to the shape that you want it to be in, which is really nice, especially if you want something that's consistent and repeatable, and if you're just looking for an excuse to use your 3D printer, which is 100% kind of what I was doing. Because you could bend your hat using rubber bands and a glass, and that works fine, or just bend it up and put it in the glass. But I really liked the idea behind this. So basically, the thought process is you get your hat bill warmed so you can actually increase its flexibility, and then you put it in the form, or you can heat it while it's in the form. and just let it chill while it takes the actual curvature that you want it to, and it will actually stress over time and take on the shape. And I really like the idea behind that, and I really like the idea behind this model. I do, however, have one weird gripe, and this is partially my fault for not paying attention when I was printing this, but I'm gonna grab my phone to show this to you guys. There is a kind of weird overhang situation on here. So, move my stickers. Get this set down. So there is an overhang right here. For some reason, this overhang is modeled in. I didn't realize that when I put this model flat on the build plate. And this new maker's mauve purple recovered really, really well on Cameraman Beau's P1P. Like, honestly, excluding that overhang, solid 9.5 out of 10 print. Top layers, mint. Layer lines, mint. The only issue that I have is this overhang. I don't know why that's there. I love the rest of this model. And that overhang did cause a bit of warping here. So you can see, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but the print itself started to curl up because there was nothing holding these posts to the print bed. So I'm not 100% sure what the thought process was. I think that our buddy Bradley Coral over on Printables here did a really good job putting this together. I think it's a really nice model. It says it's a remix from Thingiverse. So I'm not sure if we just kind of stuck two models together and didn't like flatten that out. I'm just glad, frankly, that the print was able to recover.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
You don't need to be on the table.
So the other way that you can train your hat is just by sticking it through and using it looks kind of like a target. And I think that's more the kind of bend that I'm looking for. Normally, I am a leave the bill flat and wear the hat backwards kind of person. But I'm trying to branch out. I'm trying to wear my hats in different ways.
My go-to is to just hold it like this in my hand for a while.
I mean, yeah, that's fine, but a while is not going to train a good bend in this.
I disagree. All of my hats have good bends in them.
It also is an upside down Nike swoosh.
It takes time.
Well, I can just do this.
That is nice if you get a new hat that you don't intend to wear right away. You can just stuff it in there and leave it for a couple of days.
What else is nice is like this is keeping a consistent radius. So even if I have this cockeyed off to one side or the other, as long as it is even on the bill of the hat,
From the beginning.
then it's not going to get like a cattywampus bend to it. It's going to be pretty consistent. And I suppose this would also be nice if you have several hats and when you're not wearing them, you just throw it in one of these. Like, I kind of like it for that idea as well.
Well, I mean, once it's been in there for a while, it should hold that shape. But
yeah, I mean,
again, for like if you buy a new hat, because again, this won't be the end of this being bent. Every time I put this hat on, it's going to get that treatment before it goes on for a minute. That's just typically how I do it. Though I will probably leave it in that tonight on that smallest notch because I like a tighter bend in my hats.
Versatility. Well, the other thing that we can do is we can use the heat gun and apply some gentle heat to the bill, which will soften the plastic inside the bill before putting it in here. So that way it's going to relieve stress inside the bill, so it's not going to be as likely to snap back as it cools. A lot of hat guys will use a steamer to relax the bill of the hat.
Hats that are not baseball hats are typically made using a steamer.
That's true. Like felt hats, they use a lot of steam in that process to heat it up and get it into its final shape.
Cowboy hats as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I really like this idea. I guess.
Are we a hat podcast now? Is that what's happening?
Well, you know how these things go with us
Got them tingles.
all the time, dude. So the other thing that you could do is, I mean, you could just have. I could have just like thrown rubber bands around this, or when I was a kid, my mom used to take my hats and put them in a cup overnight. Realistically, I probably should have printed this out of a higher temp material, so that way, if we do heat the bills up, then it would be less likely to deform.
I feel like the other thing is it would be better to heat the bills up while they're in that position.
So that way it softens. Yes.
Instead of trying to heat it up and then bend it with your hands and then put it into there.
I see 100% what you're saying.
So I feel like maybe some ASA or something. ABS or ASA.
Well, it's really convenient that you say as ASA because you were dehydrating a spool earlier, right?
I was, yeah. A buddy of mine down in Louisville asked me to print one of those seatbelt dinger things because his dog hops up in his passenger seat.
For the record, it's these.
And sets off the dinger in his pickup truck.
You hold that like yay.
I'm going to debrim it first.
Okay. A good brim removal is one of the most satisfying things in 3D printing.
Yes.
So, this is what Beau is talking about. Other than just a heavy dog that is going to set off your seatbelt, this is useful for several varieties. You want to go ahead and show us some other angles of that? Honestly, the print turned out beautifully. This is New Maker's Pure White,
Yes.
printed on the P1S.
This is my favorite white that I have ever printed with. I think it looks so good.
It is a bright white. Top layers look good. Dude, that is a silky top layer. The bottom layer, nice and textured. So I work at a car dealership. I sell cars. Mind hitting the transition button there, fella? Yep, this one. So I work in a car dealership. I sell cars. What that means is I spend a lot of my day moving cars around a dealership lot and hearing the ding, 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 which is really annoying. Like, this is not a product that we condone for use of an adult driver on the road, but for like disabling the binger for a dog jumping into your seat.
Another one I've actually heard is I've had friends that haul around heavy backpacks like I do, set their backpack in their passenger seat, and that can make it ding.
Well, with as much stuff as you carry around in your everyday bag, yeah, absolutely.
I'd be curious to see. I've never actually set it in the driver's seat, but I bet it'd set off the dinger in my pickup.
I'm willing to bet it does. That backpack weighs more than a child. So if you're in a situation where you're moving things around in a car frequently, or you're driving around in a controlled environment like a dealership lot, then chances are something like this would be pretty valuable to you to have. There's only one issue that I can even remotely see with these ones that cameraman Beau printed. What would that be, sir?
I was not thinking when I printed those, and I printed them out of PLA to live in a hot vehicle in the sun.
And PLA is very, very breaky. It's stiff and it has no flex. So
Brittle?
brittle.
Is brittle the word you were looking for?
Well, it's a really hard material.
I like breaky.
So do my ankles.
Both of them. One of them's my fault.
So PLA is really stiff, and as a result of its stiffness, that means when it is going to fail. It just breaks. It doesn't have much flex or give. It's not going to yield really very much before it breaks. Which, potentially not ideal to have that break off in the seatbelt clicker in your car. It is rigid. PLA is very rigid. Sergeant Porky's bacon pants. Wow-wee, that was difficult to get out.
Rem's having some problems tonight.
It has been a day, y'all. So, you don't want that breaking off of the seatbelt clicker in your car, man.
Yeah, because then you can't use your actual seatbelt when an actual person sits in that seat.
And that is a serious safety.
Not to mention a crime in most states.
Don't want to mess with that. So, cameraman Beau busted out the old fixed dry knob dehydrator that you guys saw in a previous video and previous unboxing live stream. Now, did you run this already?
I did. I ran it twice, actually, because I ran it for like probably 2 hours the first night I put it in here, because I didn't put it in like till like 5 o'clock and I had to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I actually came in and turned it on pretty well as soon as I got home and ran it for probably about 4 hours. I don't know where the cheat sheet is for the times on different filaments, but conveniently the thing has the temperatures printed right on the front of it for whatever filament you're using, and I believe it says 60 degrees for ASA.
Well, conveniently, we have a picture, and it can also be downloaded from Fixed Dry's website.
Because this filament got opened when we did the filament live stream.
Was that when we unboxed all the 20 spools?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this spool of filament's been open since we did that unboxing. I've printed like, I don't know, 3 or 4 things out of it, and then it's just been sitting on the filament rack open. So I was like, I'm gonna dry that out before I use it.
That's been a few months, and we've gotten a lot of rain over the last couple of months.
Well, when I fired this up the other day, it's sitting at 33% humidity in the chamber right now. It hasn't run since I turned it off last night. But before I fired it up, it was at 50% in here.
Okay. What was once it was all sealed? What was it at?
I think it came down to 8. I think when I shut it off to go to bed, it was at 18.
Okay.
So, I mean, it sucked a lot of moisture out, especially for this not being actually sealed in any, like, there's no rubber gasket or anything around this.
It's just mitigation, right? That's the big thing.
Right, but I mean, to me, bringing it down that much, I mean, because that was the relative humidity inside the house, right? Because this had just been sitting inside the house. So bringing it from 50 down to like 18 in a couple hours, I thought that was pretty good. Especially, again, this isn't actually like sealed. There's no gasket material on it.
No, I mean, water is going to find the path of least resistance.
So I thought it did. I mean, granted, I haven't actually printed with it yet. That'll be I'll probably throw it in the AMS and run some of those off tomorrow. But
you should bring me one to work.
Well, I think I'm gonna be headed out that way at some point, so sure.
Sweet. So, I mean, since you have it out and it's still plugged in,
It should be.
and you have a spool of filament in it, would you like to show everybody how easy it is to actually operate that machine? Because it's incredibly easy.
Yeah. So right on the front of
Hold
here.
on. Let's get them a camera angle that's usable.
I like it. I was just gonna try to hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, you had it looking this way. Let me see if we can. The cool thing about having an iPhone and streaming from a Mac is being able to wirelessly use my phone as a camera. All right, there you go, buddy. Show the people how it works.
So right on the front of here, it'd be really cool if it wasn't so reflective. There's this handy little graph, and it tells you all of the different temperatures for your different filament types, your PLA, ABS and ASA, TPU, PETG, polycarbonate, nylon. What else is on there? What am I missing?
PVA, TPU, high impact polystyrene or HIPS,
So
polypropylene.
it tells you the temperature which it doesn't actually have markings on the dial for Fahrenheit, but it tells you the temperature in both Fahrenheit and Celsius, which I think is kind of cool. But then you just turn the knob to your desired temperature. The display on the front, that's just a built-in hygrometer or
Hygrometer.
hygrometer.
Yep.
Um,
Good enough.
yeah, we've had that debate before. And I don't remember what the outcome was. So that just tells you the humidity inside of it. That I assume has its own battery in it because it's on even when the dryer's unplugged. And then once you pull the lid off, once you dial in your desired temperature for whatever you're dehydrating, that's it. Turn it on, let it run for however long.
And there's actually a fan that lives in the back of that unit, which is really nice because it actually is responsible for helping to move the heat around. And it also exhausts the moisture. So a lot of older filament dehydrators would just trap moisture actively inside, and it didn't actively remove it. So you would be removing the moisture from the filament and drying the air, but all the moisture would accumulate on the inside of the device as condensation. And by this having fans that'll actually remove moisture from the device, that's really huge. And I'm not sure, I don't recall, is there enough room in the bottom of that we might be able to get away with slinging some desiccant packs in there?
Depends on the size of the desiccant pack, but I mean, you could probably tuck a couple in there.
Might not be the worst thing in the world to just throw a couple of freebies that come in the next spools of filament that we open just in the bottom of there, just to keep the inside of that dry.
You know what else? Probably throw desiccant packs in there and turn this thing on and
to recharge desiccant?
recharge desiccant packs with it.
Ooh, that sounds like an experiment. Also, John, not John, it's going really well. I'm having a hard time speaking. We destroyed a few $100 in camera equipment last week, but we're having fun nonetheless, so we got new mics.
We did get new mics. And frankly, I'm still not at all upset about it because genuinely the mic 2s are actually kind of no joke of an upgrade over the mic 1s. There's a lot of stuff that's better about these.
What honestly makes me the most sad about it, though, is just the fact that it's not what we were looking to spend $350 on.
I mean, I agree with you.
I would have much rather been able to buy these down the road, especially with travel coming up. And the fact that that Pocket 3 is almost a necessity.
But conveniently, these were free.
They were free today. They require payment.
That's how credit cards work, right? They're free. It's just you just get free stuff. I think that's how that works. I know how money works. Don't look at me like that.
Don't worry, you just sacrificed one set of equipment on for another. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. The only issue is the plan originally was to still be able to have the old ones as a backup. The receiver still works. The transmitters and charging case, however, not.
Yeah, they died.
So, I mean, I guess if the transmitters get marked down cheap enough.
Did you smell that, by the way? It smelled like burning electronics.
Yeah, those were dead, Jim. They were dead, Jim.
Oh.
But, you know, maybe if the actual transmitters get marked down enough because they're going to stop getting made, we might be able to pick those up just as backup since we still have the transmitter or receiver. I mean, doesn't necessarily feel like a bad investment if we can catch the right deal.
I mean,
because the audio quality was still great.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that was probably one of the best investments that was made here on the channel. was the mic ones, because the audio quality kind of went from like here to here.
Mm-hmm. I will say
So-
that the user interface on the new mic 2s is much more simple. And also, this charging case is way better. It actually has a latch, and everything is magnetic in there. It feels really robust, and also, it just has that kind of industrial look and feel to it. So like, yeah, I'm sad, but just everything about the mic 2s was a big upgrade.
It's made of glass too. There's at least one person in chat who got that joke.
Well, there's 4 people in chat, so curious. I know this has only been like 15 minutes and not like 24 hours, but that actually is holding fairly well. I'm happy with the quality of these hats. The embroidery quality is very nice. I've had hats that cost more money than these, made by a company that makes hats that have worse embroidery on them.
I'm still a little annoyed that the inside of the bill is green,
I had no control over
but
that.
I'll live.
My only Benchies hat that I bought from Nero has the same kind of thing with the bill where it's green. Overall, though,
It's not a problem. It just annoys me because, well, the black and the gray and the blue all work really well together, and then you throw that green in there, and it's like, that's interesting.
we have Rit dye at Nathan's house. We can make it black.
Well, I would want to make it gray to match the...
Well, the gray is a lighter shade than the green, so I don't think we can go that way.
Well, probably not. I'm just making the point.
I don't know why it's green. I've seen several hats where the underneath of the bill is green. I'm trying to...
Maybe the company that makes the hats, like not our merch company, but the company that actually manufactures the hats, is an eco-friendly company, and it's their nod to being green.
They say made in Bangladesh on them. I'm not sure what their eco policies are.
I don't know. I've never been to Bangladesh.
You've never even been to Canada.
Ram is getting mad at me. So fun fact, I got that stuck in his head like, what, 6 hours ago?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I got yelled at a lot for that one because he kept singing it.
So much singing.
I thought it was funny.
You know, we should have 3D printed more stuff this week.
To be fair, I did 3D print something this week.
So did I.
They were all worthless because I printed them out of the wrong material.
They're fine in the winter. I mean, I printed this today.
I don't know. I maintain I'd be afraid, again, like for Damon, his dog hops up there and steps on it and snaps it off in the seatbelt thing. Now when his wife gets in the truck with him, she can't put her seatbelt on.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because it's illegal.
And then you have to go to a mechanic or the dealership to get that fixed. And that's another problem. Bad news bears, man.
Primarily because it's costly.
Yeah, I mean, this was only an hour print on the bamboo, and frankly, I have a lot of hats. I'm going to print more of these.
Make sure you turn on supports.
Or, I mean, another solution to that would have been printing it in this orientation, which... So, I mean, a hat's not going to introduce a lot of tension. So if we printed it in this orientation, it would take the stress off of these little notches as the hat is expanding. But, I mean, I guess it's probably not bad. Then you have this where you have a more even load, but you would have these 2 points. So, I mean, if you're looking purely at where the load is going to be, I don't know what's better or worse. I'm not a material scientist by any stretch.
I am.
Are you?
No.
My thought process with printing it flat, though, was it would increase printability just due to the fact that it had more surface area touching the build plate. But I guess if I printed them this way, it would... Well, see, the issue that I have with this, though, if you print this part in this orientation, you're going to have way more retractions.
Hello, people.
What's up? The West one? The other... So that would increase the print time and potentially cause issues by having more retractions, because once you get past this, you're going to print this little layer, then you're going to have to go do this little layer, then this one, then this one, and this one. You're going to retract every single travel. That's the filament going in and out of the nozzle pretty frequently. But I still think that this is the better print orientation. Just wonder how difficult it would be for me to make this model to where it's designed to be printed flat. Like, overall, love the idea.
I maintain, because of what that is and what you're going to use it for, I would enable supports, regular supports, and not even remove them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, you know, the other solution to that, if you don't want to deal with removing them and them falling off. So Calyx, this is a hat bill bender. Stick it on your hat like so, and you have the hottest fashion accessory of the season.
I feel like Lady Gaga.
Brahma. La la la. It's a hat bill bender because we got hats.
You and me could write a bad romance.
Why do you do things like this? John Not John 888. Speaking of materials, can you tell me a little bit about ASA? I've only had PLA, ABS, and PETG, so I'm still learning the pros and cons of other materials. So, I really love the notion of ASA. ASA is really good at basically everything that ABS is really good at, with the addition of also being UV resistant.
It also, from my understanding, is a little bit less prone to warping while printing than ABS. That is at least what Nathan found in his research and why he chose to print all of his Voron parts out of ASA instead of ABS.
From my personal experience, ASA tends to be a little bit on the pricier side because it is kind of one of the new kids on the street. ABS has been around in printing for a really long time. We had ABS before we had PLA. I have had an easier job printing ASA than ABS as well. But I will say that ASA has a much more aggressive smell than ABS does. These modern ABSs are getting really good at being low smell, and ASA is pretty ripe.
When I was printing Nate's Voron parts, it got potent in here.
I've printed ABS open air and not had near the smell issue that I have had printing ASA in enclosed printers. I've printed ASA on my bamboo, his bamboo, and my Voron 0.2. And ASA it's an aggressive smell.
And let's not forget that the P1S actually has an activated charcoal filter.
Yes.
In it. So even with that, it's still a very strong chemical smell, and also not something that you want to breathe a lot of, not just for smell. It's also not really healthy for you to breathe a lot of that in. So,
I mean, in all reality, it's not the healthiest thing in the world to be breathing in any unfiltered air from your 3D printer, just due to various chemicals, the microplastics of it all. ASA and ABS are two pretty aggressive ones, however. And ASA, from my understanding, my loose understanding, ASA is worse than ABS in that regard. It is more unhealthy, and you can get very, very sick from printing ASA in a non-ventilated environment.
Yep, print in a room that you can have some air movement in.
Like, you want no air movement in the printer, but I don't recommend, if your only space of printing is your bedroom, don't recommend printing ABS or ASA, either one of them. But if you have to, for some reason, I would go with ABS for that regard.
And if you can, provided that you are using an enclosed printer of some kind, run a fan in the room, and preferably, especially, we live in Ohio, and this time of year it's relatively pleasant temperatures outside. Open a window, maybe turn a fan on and point it in, like, have it pulling air in from outside or blowing air to the outside to get rid of some of the smell and whatever else.
Yeah, ASA is some wicked stuff. It really, really is. I mean, I was printing it in another room in my house, and I could smell it in my bedroom, and I've kind of slowed down on the amount of ASA that I'm printing as a result of that, at least inside the house, because I have myself, my cats, and my dog to think about as well. And I don't want to make my pets sick from printing an obnoxious material. So if you have like a garage or shed, definitely take your printer there to print stuff like ASA. But it does have a lot of benefits to it. It's going to be more flexible than PLA, more temperature resistant than PLA. And when I say flexible, I don't just mean like TPU. It's not flexible like TPU, but it isn't as rigid or stiff as PLA. So when you actually bend an ASA or ABS part, it's going to flex more before it gives.
Also, pro tip, if you're printing either ABS or ASA, generally you're going to want to use an enclosed printer. And whenever your print is done, leave it so my P1S has a door on the front of it. Like, if you're printing in a printer like that, leave the door shut for at least like 30 minutes after the print has finished, and let everything slowly cool down, because if you introduce colder air into that warm environment where that material's been printing, it's going to warp off the print bed, or at least have a tendency to do that. I've ruined parts doing that.
Yeah, and just letting it slowly cool down is going to reduce the internal stresses of cooling. It also is going to give time for, if you have a printer that has active air filtration of some sort, for the filter to suck out some of the nasty stuff and to let the air in there kind of settle. You go rip that printer door open immediately, you're just going to get a face full of ASA fume.
A face full of some stuff that you don't want to get a face full of.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's genuinely, even if it's not making you sick, the smell of
it just smells bad.
It just hits you in the face really aggressive. Don't do it. And when you compare it to PETG, I think that PETG has a better inner layer adhesion from my experience. So your actual layer adhesion seems to be a lot better. But what's really interesting about PETG is when it breaks, it has a tendency to kind of shatter and explode kind of aggressively. Like, PETG shards are sharp. It's also less UV resistant than ASA. But PETG is one of the best materials to use if you're looking for a watertight print, because without any post-processing, it's way more likely to become watertight just because of how kind of oozy and sticky PETG is. Man, they have us getting into a little bit of stuff from the next video here. Calyx finally got into golf. Well, it's about time, dude. Did you do more than drive the cart this time? I'm gonna buy a 3D printed putter. I'm actually really excited. I have ideas for a video with that, and it's not just an excuse to go play golf. It's a little an excuse to go play golf.
But Calyx is also looking to learn how to say bad words.
Dude, golf is...
That is the best descriptor I've ever heard about learning to play golf. It's just learning to swear.
Disc golf.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot more. I don't know. Maybe it's just because you're not as invested in it, because
It costs way less money.
yeah, you can get a starter kit of discs for like $30. Whereas, how much does a mid-quality driver cost?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's a reason I'm buying a putter.
How much would a mid-quality entire set of golf clubs cost?
It sure would, buddy. There's a reason that golf's not my main hobby.
I feel like that's a big part of what makes disc golf less, I don't want to say stressful, frustrating, I guess, is that you don't invest a lot of money into it, and it's just kind of funny to yeet a disc into the woods. Like, well, I'm an idiot, but that was kind of funny.
And then you spend an hour looking for it because you just spent $20 on it a week prior. We should go play soon. I miss disc golf.
Who put that tree there?
Good exercise.
It's a bad place for that tree.
Dude, 10 out of 10 times, if there is a tree to be found on a fairway in disc golf, you're gonna find it. You know, I actually watched a video not long ago where a guy 3D printed discs and then used that as the upstart idea, and now owns a disc company.
We should try some 3D printed discs.
We should. We should. I wonder how many 3D printed disc golf or 3D printable disc golf discs there are on printables. I'm not sure how to tune for flight characteristics, but that wouldn't exactly be a difficult thing to design a really terrible one of. Let's see here. Disc golf retriever used, eh? I don't think I understand how this works. But I like the premise. Here we go. Here's a disc golf driver. They say it's stable, based off of a classic disc. Would this fit on the bamboo? Felix said that he got his first set of golf clubs. That is really cool, man. We should go this summer. You, your dad, me, and my grandpa, we should try to get out one weekend. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I am terrible at golf. That's part of the charm. Dude, this would be so much support material. There is not an orientation in which this can be printed without requiring supports, I'm sure. It's printable. We should print them out of TPU.
I'm gonna print you out of TPU.
I wouldn't recommend that. That sounds like a really expensive outing. I'm pretty large. I'm a pretty big boy. That would take several months of printing.
I would just use low infill.
I wish that my genetics used low infill.
Brother. Same.
So what are you guys up to? What have you guys printed this week? Functional, decorative? What has everybody hanging out in chat made this week?
You have a tab open to the channel's Discord?
You
took pictures of it. Send pictures in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, Join the Discord.
I mean, I have Discord open. I don't open Discord in a browser. I'm not a heathen.
Okay, fair enough.
Who uses the browser for Discord?
Listen, I don't need your judgment. And to answer your question, not me. But I still don't need your judgment.
I don't know. I've seen you do some stuff on the computer that makes me feel like you would be the kind of person that uses Discord on the browser. John, trying to use an interface material of some sort for supports is a really good idea. Alex has made a camera mount for the Neptune. That does sound like a really solid idea, using some sort of interface material. What exactly would be the best interface material? I'm not sure. I mean, we could use PVA, which is water soluble. Bamboo has support material to use as just an interface layer. I will typically do everything in my power to print something without support. Where in Discord should we post pictures? Throw them up in general. Seems like a good place for right now.
I just want you to know, if you can't feel my judgment right now, you're receiving my judgment right now.
For what?
There's an AirPod on the coffee table.
I knew where it was. Okay, so
He lost an AirPod in my driveway for like a week.
it was 2.
Was it 2 weeks? For
Yeah.
2 weeks, one of his AirPods was just in my driveway.
Yeah,
It rained a lot during that 2-week period.
yeah, it was 2 weeks.
It's because he takes an AirPod out of his ear and instead of putting it immediately back into the case, puts it in his pocket.
I know where it is.
And now there's an AirPod not in the case on the coffee table.
I know where it is. It's under control.
He's going to call me in 2 days and be like, "Have you seen my AirPod?"
Not this time. I knew it was there.
Uh-huh.
So this, back on topic, is the camera mount that Calyx has made for his Neptune. Calyx, is that a Logitech C920? E270? I don't remember. But it looks like one of the Logitech cameras that I've had along the way. Pretty sure I have. I know for a fact that I have 2 Logitech webcams. D270. I have 2 webcams plugged into my home computer, and one of them is a C270 and the other is a C920.
What do I have plugged into mine?
C920. You have a newer version of the C920, which for 3D print monitoring is higher resolution than most people need. Okay, Alex, have you got any cool time lapses? Or are you just using it for monitoring? Let's see. We have a part sorting bin. Oh, dude, that is clever. I like what I'm seeing here. That looks really nice for sorting out heat set inserts and counting them off. Did you post that somewhere, or are you keeping that all to yourself? Oh, he's even got little tweezers. Dude.
That's pretty dope.
That is rad. Little tweezers. We got a little pusher. That is really cool, man. I like that a lot. On printables. John Not John 888 made a stopper that attaches the wheels to stop them from rotating 360 degrees. What kind of wheels? Like car wheels? Computer chair wheels? Skateboard wheels? Is your dad Tony Hawk?
Hey man, you kind of look like Tony Hawk.
That's my favorite. So So Tony Hawk runs into a bunch of people all the time. He doesn't know that he is Tony Hawk. Just for a work cart that holds tools. Okay. Still sounds really useful.
Useful prints are the best prints.
They're genuinely my favorite. Like, I love like a good decorative print, like your shelf of Pokemon.
I'm gonna pull one of those down.
Yes, you should absolutely.
But just because I love this purple so much.
Ah, the Snorlax. This mauve purple.
I mean, for crying out loud, this printed so well.
It is gorgeous. So, I mean, yes. Gosh, that is stout. You probably could have got away with like 5% infill on this.
I think I left it at the default, which is what, 15 and
Yeah. Layer lines are like invisible when you're looking straight at it.
it printed so nice.
New Maker's mauve purple, guys. Not a color that I would have ever thought to buy, but it looks so good.
Don't sleep on it. I don't know how well it comes across on camera, but it looks really good in person.
Which is conveniently, now see, I didn't leave my hat in the shaper long enough and it's really flattened out here by a large margin. Mauve purple is a fantastic color. Again, not something that I would have set out to buy, but after seeing it in person, it's amazing. Decorative prints are cool, and they satisfy that little dopamine thing. But there is something about when you print something useful, even if it is useful for a really specific niche thing, and I would almost argue that 3D printing is better for those little niche things, because there are very few. That's a fat cat. You're not wrong. But being able to make a custom tool for a niche application, like something as just extra and over the top as a hat bill bender.
I'll be honest, I don't even think that's that niche, because like, realistically, see a lot of people wearing hats. And I would say at least half of them bend the bills.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's not even that niche. I think something like that is a great thing that, how long did you say that took to print?
It took an hour, and I didn't optimize anything.
So throw it in the slicer. An hour later, you've got, and realistically, you could get a couple of those on a build plate. So if you have a bunch of hats and you want to keep them like that, keep them in it to keep the bend even, like that's pretty cool.
Well, and what else is really interesting about this is this particular one on printables does not require, it's fully open on printables. Creative Commons public domain. Now, the issue with that is the original license of the hat shaper or hat bill bender, which this was very obviously inspired by, is Creative Commons attribution. So you have to give appropriate credit and any changes that you make. So like something like this, you could sell as long as you give credit to the original designer for their contribution to the project, because this is open enough that you could print and sell these. And there are enough people that really like hats that you could probably sell quite a lot of them. And at an hour per each, and if you print them appropriately, no post-processing time, I'm willing to bet you could probably do that with pretty low overall overhead. I didn't look at the actual cost of printing this part in terms of material, and because we don't do enough commercial stuff as of the moment, we don't really have a price assigned to our time. But all day, you could make, I bet you could sell this for $10.
Not to mention, they're not really an hour a piece to print. Because if you throw 2 of them on the print bed, that's not going to quite double your print time.
Well, it's actually going to more than double your print time.
Oh, you're right. The extra movement.
Yep.
I'm wrong. Never mind.
Now, if you were doing this on a resin printer, you're absolutely right. It wouldn't affect it. But, okay, so let's see. How many of these? So I printed this part flat on the bed, and it took an hour. If I print it standing up, it takes an hour and 4 minutes. Now, what's really interesting is I could probably only fit 2 on the bed. So it takes 54 minutes to print it flat. And I could do some fancy stuff, but you can. So for those of you guys who are not using Bamboo Studio or Orca Slicer, they have a button that is just fill bed with copies. Okay, so 3 of them is actually kind of a sweet spot. You can print 3 of these laying flat the way that I did in 2.5 hours.
So less than a total of an hour a piece.
So now if you...
Not to mention, really, that's printer time, not your time.
Well,
what you just did took 30 seconds.
Yes, but I mean, there's more to it than that. But we don't sell enough stuff. That's probably how I would value it. If you print them upright and fill that with copies, without getting fancy and arranging them yourself, Bamboo Studio automatically is putting 11 copies on the print bed, or is it 12 copies? So you can print 12 of them in 11 hours and 23 minutes upright in one batch for 247 grams of filament. So a quarter of a spool, sub 12 hours. You start this a couple hours before bed. You wake up, you sell these for 10 bucks a piece. Congratulations. You have made a good portion of money.
I mean, $120 minus time and material, which you're looking at $5 in material.
Yeah, so...
And like for me, that's a work day, so that's start that before I go to work. I get home from work, those are done.
Yeah. And then you can sell them for $120. Roughly. I guarantee you could sell this product for $10 easy. If you're selling it in person at like a farmer's market or something like that type situation,
Craft shows.
$15. Easy. And I mean, at $10 a piece, you sell 2 1/4 of these, and you've more than made up for the price of a spool of filament. Unless you're using New Maker's filament, by the way, code rtms at checkout saves you 5%. New Maker's does tiered pricing, so if you buy 10 or more spools of filament, it's cheaper than buying 9 spools. So it's less money when you're shopping with New Maker's to buy 10 than it is to buy with 9. Because of their tiered pricing. So if you find a company like that that makes a high quality filament that you like using, you get a discount. A little print like this that you print as a one-off for yourself, chances are if you need this or want this, somebody else does as well. You keep the people entertained for a second. I need to grab a top charger.
Surprised it's not just here on the floor.
Well, we put it in my backpack the other day. I don't know what you want from me.
Oh, not a whole lot. Just a milkshake every now and then.
Didn't we just get ice cream last weekend?
It was either last weekend. I don't remember now. No, I think it was 2 weekends ago.
Well, I know we got ice cream 2 weekends ago.
Look at him trying to get out of doing his payroll for the company. Well, as far as entertaining the people goes, I'm not that entertaining. So I'll bust out some more cool Pokemon.
There you go.
Because Pokemon am cool. And these were, I believe, all also printed out of New Makers.
Yo, here's something you've never showed the people.
You're right, I haven't shown the people this. This was, I think this was the first thing that wasn't... I'm going to call this the first actual multicolor print that I did after I bought the AMS. I did one, I've done a couple that have been like one color change mid-print. But this is a little mushroom from Mario that is actually a full-on multicolor print. This took a very long time to do and created a ton of waste, which is kind of sad, but whatever. I think this is dope.
Actually,
When Rem gets back over here, we'll fire that up. Oh yeah, I do still have all of that. So this is, I believe my poop bucket is 5 inches tall, and it is probably an inch to an inch and a half from the top of there, just full of all of these purges, which I don't know why, but I like, because it kind of looks like candy canes to me, and I'm a child.
you're definitely a child. But I mean, this thing turned out pretty darn good. Still kind of confused. I'm still learning the ins and outs of the AMS. I don't do a ton of multicolor printing, so I'm not sure why it printed all the infill white.
I don't understand that. I did have it set to purge to infill.
That could be a factor in that. But it's
I
also...
also
Good.
So when that downloaded and I imported it into the slicer, it came in as a solid color, just one color for the whole thing, and I color filled it. There's an option to color fill areas in Bamboo Slicer, and that's how I changed the colors, was that color fill option. Which worked really well. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, because it was originally set to print with the spool in the #1 position, which was the white.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, then if you did it the other way and it printed in red, then you probably would have had a lot of bleed.
Well,
Also, that is stout.
yeah,
That is hefty.
I don't think I changed the infill on this. This, clearly I did drop the infill down to, I'm guessing, 5.
Oh, easy, because
That's super light.
this weighs less than the Snorlax and is a comparable size.
I'm guessing 5 to 10 on that. Nate did that one.
If I had to guess, knowing Nathan, it's probably 10%.
I believe that came off of the V2, one of the first prints off the V2.
Was this off the V2 or was it an SVO6 print?
I think this was off the V2, that Eevee that he did in their
Rust.
yeah, the rust copper.
I
something.
love that color.
That should be up here somewhere. Ah, here it is.
Yes. This is a perfect color for Eevee, or like my dog. I have a Shiba, and this would be like the perfect color for most of him. Dude, New Makers is just killing the color variety.
But yep, this came off the SVO6, and I think this came off the V2.
Calyx says that we should make a video on things to 3D print for golf if there's a decent amount of items that exist for it. Almost like that's a video topic I suggested during one of our meetings last week. Oh, Calyx, we have a couple of 3D printed golf videos in the works. By a couple, I mean 2. There are 2. Really 1.5.
It's news to me.
You really got to start paying attention during the staff meetings.
I refuse. I don't get paid for the meetings. I'm not paying attention during them.
I am calling your supervisor.
Well, I am calling somebody to give you an I love myself jacket, because then you would just be talking to yourself.
Wow. Are you going to host all the videos and film all the videos? And
I will not be calling that person. That sounds like too much work.
yeah. So,
Plus, who would buy me my milkshakes?
yeah, exactly. You just keep saying that so that way you'll hope that I also want a milkshake when we're done with this stream.
No, it's just happened to have come up twice.
Because now I want a milkshake, you jerk. You're evil. Yeah, the only staff member doesn't listen. I guess it's a good thing that he's not paid very well.
'Tis true. 'Tis true.
I could not afford a more experienced editor. The important thing though is he's also being paid with experience. He's more of like a milkshake intern.
Milkshake brings all the interns to the yard.
And they're like, pay me, please. I mean, realistically, what did I do by myself before you came? I think I did 2 or 3 videos completely by myself.
You've done several live streams, but that was when you were building the V0.
Yeah.
Because you were building that like after work out in the shed when I was, sleeping.
Yep.
I'm
saying like early in the channel though.
I think you did 4 videos before you kind of brought me in to start doing the filming and editing.
And realistically, every bit of this is us learning things together. We've really identified that, at least as of the moment, we have different kind of strengths and weaknesses when it comes to editing. Like when it comes to putting a timeline together and just brutally chopping things out when I get long-winded, he is definitely the guy. 110%. He is way better at building out the timelines than I am. When it comes to like trying to get fancy and do crazy stuff, that's the stuff that really gets my attention. And that's kind of where it works, is we're able to kind of bounce back and forth off of each other. John, not John, if there are ideas being thrown out, I would love a video on 3D printed instruments. It's such a small part of printables that doesn't have much love, even if I can't play any. Oh, buddy boy, are you in luck. Because
I've got like 3 of these around the house somewhere.
we actually have some experience in various 3D printed noisemakers, and they do make a lot of noise. This is one of your very first prints, is it not?
It is, and so there's actually a couple parts missing to this because I didn't have the proper filament at the time. But there is supposed to be a silver band around this with the yellow Triforce emblem from the Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time. And then there's also a stand for it that I don't think I printed.
You did not.
But it is actually playable. Here, I'm going to turn mine off, leave yours on.
Okay.
That way, hopefully, we don't hurt anybody's ear. So it is actually playable. You can make sound with it.
You can do some hot cross buns.
I started trying to learn the actual
Song of Time.
I remember it now.
Yeah, that's been like over a year ago. Turn your mic back on. I actually printed a left-handed version because I'm left-handed. So, these are some things that we've done. I mean, I've made some short form stuff with them, but a full-length video would be cool.
We could print the recorders. Remember, I assume you learned to play those too in middle school?
No.
You didn't do that?
No, I did it in my spare time as a child, but never it was never a school thing. Something I would really like to do, and I happen to know somebody who would be an awesome gift for, is actually print like the Prusicaster or some other 3D printed guitar body that you can buy a completion kit for. Beau's dad collects guitars, and I think it would be really fun for us to do a video where we actually print all the parts and build the guitar, gift it to him, and then have him perform one of his original songs in one of our videos. Because we can't get DMCA'd for that, because it's his daddy-o. Same old 77. Are you still happy with the fixed dry NT1 dryer? I am still incredibly happy with the dryer. It's actually, I've handed off true ownership and possession to Beau, so are you still happy with your dryer?
I mean, yeah, I've actually, well, first of all, since the channel received it as a whole, I've actually used it more than you have, I'm pretty sure.
You have.
So I've used it for several spools of filament, and now, a couple of caveats here. One, I'm not a super experienced 3D printer. I'm nowhere near on Rem's level. So I can tell when things go very wrong. Rem can tell when things go a little wrong. As far as I've been able to tell, every spool that I've run through this has come out printing really well. Second caveat, I didn't try printing with the spool first. I said, this sat for a while, I should probably dry it out, and did that before I tried printing with it. So I don't know how it would have printed beforehand. Being said, every time I've thrown a spool in here, it's come out and it's printed what I wanted it to print. Well.
It is incredibly easy to use.
And that's the biggest thing. It's so simple to use. Tells you right on the front what temperature to set it at. You turn the knob, you flip the switch on the back. It's running right now.
In terms of a multi-spool dryer, the only one that I have direct first-hand experience with, and I can absolutely recommend it because I genuinely love this product, is the iBose Polyphemus. It's their 2-spool dryer. We actually unboxed it. Well, we didn't unbox it on stream, but we showed it off on stream a few months ago, and I genuinely love that filament dryer. It is also incredibly easy to use, not quite as straightforward as this one, where your options are on, off, and adjust the temperature with a dial. But it is a very easy product. It looks really nice. It's expandable to be able to put larger spools in, and it actually has motors in it. So when you're drying a spool of filament, it'll actually rotate the spool for even heating. That is just absolutely top notch. Fixed dry or iBose, 100%. I can recommend products from either of those companies. Now full disclosure, both of those companies have sent us products for free to make content on. But I genuinely have used both of them and love using both of the products. My contacts at both of those companies have been incredibly nice and friendly individuals. So they've been very fun to work with, very easy to work with. And both companies make, in my opinion, from my limited experience, very nice products.
I think the biggest thing with something like this, especially something this simple to use, is it's great until it's not. And with something like this, I don't see any downsides to this unless it just stops working not very long into owning it. And there's no way we can possibly know that until that happens. And it may not happen. It may last for years. I don't know.
Just based off the simplicity of the design, that's what I'm inclined to believe is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it would be... The only thing I see going wrong with this is the battery and the hygrometer. Thank you. I'm going to forget that every time. That dying, and I'm not 100% sure how to replace that. Maybe it charges when you turn it on. I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
But
that's such a low power drawing type of screen.
Well, that, and who cares? It's cool that it gives you that information, but what you're actually, going for is dehydrating the spool, not dehydrating the air
Yep.
in the inside of the thing, and that's all that actually tells you. Point being, it's got an on-off switch and one knob, and then a fan in the back and a heating element. Not a lot to go wrong with it. So
As long as it pulls the wet air out and keeps getting hot, it's gonna work great for a long time.
yeah, so that, like, as far as I'm concerned, this is a fantastic product. Again, we've had it for
6 months or so.
less than 1 year, but used it a handful of times to dry out a handful of spools of filament, and every time I've printed with one, again, didn't try to print with it before I dehydrated it or, dried it out, whatever. So I don't know how wet it was, but it printed great after I pulled it out of there.
And I mean, it's kind of the marker. I mean, the big thing is there's not a lot that can go wrong with a dehydrator that's that bog simple. There's no motors or anything like that. But if you're going to have those things, at least make them user serviceable.
Also, if you didn't see our video about it or the live stream, this thing around the outside is just a piece of like Bowden tube material. There's a grommet on either side. You can print directly out of this box, out of this dryer, with this. So that's also super convenient if you're trying to print. I've heard, like, if you're printing nylon, is a big one. If you're printing with nylon, you're supposed to be printing directly from a dry box, or preferably a filament dryer, because nylon is so hygroscopic that if you take it out of the package and put it directly on your spool holder on your printer, immediately you're gonna have problems. Is what I've heard.
Nylon needs dehydrated before you can print with it the first time, from my understanding. We really need to bite the bullet
And just buy a spool of nylon.
Yeah, we genuinely need to get a spool to try.
Yeah.
The problem is, so a lot of people find really good applications for nylon.
Real quick, I know it sounds like we're making a video about this, but we're not. But I also just want to point out, if you are printing from here, there's bearings in the bottom, and the spool inside of it spins very easily. So if you do want to print with one of these, because somebody asked, I'm just trying to hit all the points. You can print right out of this, and the spool spins very freely inside of it.
You should check out the video on our channel.
Yeah, we did make a video about it.
We went really in depth, and that was actually a pretty fun video to do. Yeah, like, a lot of people have good applications for nylon, and I'm sure after we had a spool and had a better understanding of what we could use the material for in our applications, it'd be great. But in reality, I've not experienced a situation where PLA, ABS, or PETG, or even TPU for that matter, hasn't just been the right call.
I mean, again, you see the stuff I like to print. The majority of the stuff that I like to print is decorative prints. I think, was it John, not John, that said he printed the wheel stops for a cart at work? Mm-hmm. I think something like that is, like, one of the coolest things that you can do, because you've identified a problem that you have, and I don't know if you designed whatever it is that you printed or if you found it on printables. Either way, you took a machine and melted some plastic into a shape that solved a problem that you had. And I think that's awesome. But on a personal level, 99% of what I do is just decorative.
This from the guy who bought his first 3D printer because he wanted to use it practically and to make tools. In reality, he makes Pokemon and chip clips.
Oh, chip clips. Yeah, that's something that I do make that's a solve a problem, I guess, kind of thing.
Yeah, you've printed so many chip clips.
They're neat. And also, if you print them out of PLA, especially silk PLA, they break pretty easily.
Yeah, apparently I forgot to have the filament choice talk with him several times. Told him many times that silk PLA and Polyterra are not necessarily the best for functional parts, So what does Beau do?
Printed them out of whatever was already loaded into the printer. That is correct, sir. That is exactly what I did.
That's exactly what you do.
That is correct. Well, now I have 4 spools loaded into the printer. They're all PLA, but there's 4 of them in there to choose from.
They are. To be fair, I feel like real-world functional prints is the main reason most people want printers, but once they get into printing, fun stuff turns into a guilty pleasure. Yes. 100% that. 100%. I don't even know how much of a guilty pleasure it is. It's just, it goes from, I want to make
Depends on
tools-
your filament budget versus how much you actually in practice spend on filament to print dumb things you don't need. Guilty.
I like chip clips, animal ones for the kids. He makes the dinosaur cam lock ones, which are awesome and honestly good fidget toys. I do genuinely enjoy them as fidget toys.
They're fun little prints.
They don't take a long time. They don't use a lot of filament. Honestly, something like that would make for a good filament swatch kind of deal. Like, print a handful of them off. So,
Hey, here's a question.
what's up?
What you doing?
Nothing. Minding my own business. Slight addiction to printing fidget toys. Yep. Felt. So much felt. I really like these because one of my favorite fidget toys is my Apple Watch band. And these things are just like a watch band and prevent me from pulling my watch off of my wrist and swinging around my watch. Might end up making way more stuff for other people than myself. You know, I'm the same way, largely. But that's what's fun about making things. At least for me. I like to make things to share either my passion with others, to help other people solve their problem, or just show them how cool 3D printing can be. And I love to just, so like, again, I mentioned this earlier, I work in a car dealership. So I leave prints at my desk because I print a lot of fidget toys. And one of my favorite things to make is print in place animals. And if somebody comes in with their kiddo and they're looking at buying a car, giving the kid the fidget toy that's chilling on my desk saves so much potential, like kid getting distracted and running off kind of stuff. It's really nice to be able to, like, hey, look here, I made this thing, you can have this. And it sits there, distracts the kid for a minute, and it's something tangible and memorable. Calyx, there is the link for the fidget toy that I was just playing with. It is the Flexit Key skill toy. Actually really cool. There's like different tricks and moves that you can do with them. So like, I like to have little stuff sitting at my desk that I can give to people. I've given people keychains that I made myself. I like to have fidget toys on hands for kids. I like to have fidget toys on hands for me. Because if you guys can't see, but behind the laptop screen, I've actually broken a piece of filament that was laying on the desk into 4 segments, and I enjoy doing that with filament and just rolling the small pieces between my fingers. It's just one of those things that kind of quells the nerves and helps just keep my mind free to focus on other stuff. So like, I love having a ton of fidget toys all around. Sharing prints to others and get them into printing. Yes. Yes, that is 100%.
I could not find my favorite fidget toy that I've printed is that planetary fidget spinner, planetary gear fidget spinner. I like fidget spinners in general, and there's several of those planetary gear fidget spinners on printables. Off the top of my head, I don't know which model that I used.
I couldn't even find the one that you used when I was making one for myself.
I don't have my laptop in here to pull it up, but I did, because these are laying all over my house now, find one of these chip clips. So essentially, you roll your bag up, stick this over the, rolled up bag, and then flip this shut, and this lobe here is cammed out, and that's gonna break it, but once you get it in there, shut it. That's too thin.
Does this add enough thickness?
Maybe.
No.
On a bag, it will actually clamp the bag shut. I'm not gonna go
double that over again. Try that. Chip bags are noisy. So that's the idea. Flips on, and it's a dinosaur. So it's fun for all ages. It's also a good fidget toy. I like to just kind of like swing them back and forth.
Yeah, once you get them broke in, they swing back and forth real easy, and I do the same. I'll sit there and flip them back and forth.
My wife calls the bedroom where I have my printers Little China. Is that because of the amount of manufacturing going on? Yeah, these are really, like, once they're snug, that's on there. You had to apply some serious force.
I've had bags of chips that have just been sitting and chilling for like 2 months, open with one of those clips, but rolled up with one of those clips on it, and the chips don't taste stale.
Plus, they're just cool. It's just a cool print. And these don't take that much time, do they? About an hour? What does one of these take you? I know you normally do batches.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've just printed one of those. I couldn't even venture a guess. I think the last batch of them took about a couple hours, and I think I got 8 of them out of it.
See, this and then some types of fidget toys are awesome examples of 3D printing and how 3D printing is such a totally unique technology, because there is not another manufacturing process that would enable you to make this part as one part.
Well, and another one, that the planetary gear spinners that I make, they're herringbone gears. And herringbone gears are incredibly difficult to manufacture outside of 3D printing. They have to be, I mean, typically, like, that actually originated by being carved into wood.
Interesting.
Or wood or bone. But because it's such a hard thing to do.
I can see bone. And then, like, a really hardwood would make sense. Like white oak or something.
But what's neat about it is, because of the design of the herringbone gears, it prints in place, and then because of the way those are designed, it can't actually like pop all the gears out of that central gear.
Right. And that's really rad.
The other thing is, because you print something like that in place, even if you did, if you molded that out of some kind of metal or like injection molding or something, the outer ring would have to come apart into 2 pieces to get all of the inner parts into it.
Oh, absolutely.
So, whereas, again, with a printer, you can just print it in place.
Which is just so awesome. I mean, you could probably make this out of other types of material that you could snap together or pin together.
Well,
but this being all self-contained.
That's exactly what a watch band is all those pieces, except they're individual pieces and you pin them together.
But this is just held together by the next piece. No pinning, and I mean, you could really rip this apart. I love these things. It's so satisfying. The chainmails are also a really fun one.
I've not done any of those yet, but they look cool.
Gosh, you should definitely do the NASA chainmail. It's super satisfying. It's really nice out of a silk material on one of those patterned build plates.
Yeah.
I've given all of mine away at this point, but I love that. That's another one. I mean, you can't really make closed loop chainmail without bending and welding. 3D printing, you can. You can make fully closed loop chainmail. And also some really complicated geometries as a result. Man.
I mean, granted, unless you have a metal 3D printer, not doing a lot with 3D printed chainmail.
You know, you could hit up PCBWay. You can have titanium 3D printed with them.
Now that would be interesting. I'll bet it would also be wildly expensive to get like a chainmail, like an actual chainmail shirt you could wear.
Oh, heavens, yes.
But
you would probably have to have individual segments and then put it together yourself. Which, at that point, I don't think would be too bad. That's not the one I did the hexa. Shocker, I know.
I was just gonna say, I'm shook because hexagons are the bestigons.
That a boy, you're learning. I wonder how much it would cost to have that printed out of titanium. Just that. If it would function. But it would. I'm curious. So PCBWay has the ability for you to print stainless steel, titanium, and tool steel, and aluminum.
3D printing tool steel seems wild to me.
I just want to know what this would cost me to have out of titanium. Discrepancy. Standard surface finish. Oh, they have several different aluminum alloys too. Where did titanium option go? Oh, there we go. Oh. What? So, Calyx, have you, out of curiosity, have you been getting your prints to stick on your P1S again? Hey, so Beau, not John, asked if we trust the 3D printed shelf brackets.
The brackets themselves, a lot more than the walls they're attached to.
Let's switch over to the phone camera here. And then, okay. This is gonna be a little shaky there, chums, but bear with me. All right, you wanna show how stout those brackets are?
So, not really, because I'm gonna yank them out of the wall. The brackets themselves are not flexing at all when I do this, and I'm putting a lot of force on it, but it is trying to pull it out of the wall. But yeah, 100% I trust the brackets. Again, my concern is the wall failing.
So,
To give a good idea of...
well, how many spools of filament are loaded up on just 2 brackets over there? I mean, we have a lot of weight being held on by nothing but 3D printed shelf brackets in this room.
Yeah, well, these I actually do trust because they're drilled into studs, but I mean, I can yank pretty hard on this. It's not going. And there's 19 spools of filament up there.
A lot of which are mostly full, so if we round down and say that we have 15 full spools of filament, I mean, that's many pounds of weight in filament hanging from the wall. What's that? 30 point?
I would say, as of right now, there's probably 30 to 35 pounds on the shelf, the filament brackets.
I have no doubt that if drilled and appropriately fastened into an appropriate material, those would hold either of our weight without issue.
Yeah, to answer your question, John, not John, that is his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to answer your question, man, 100% I trust those shelf brackets as much as any that we would buy from a store. Because we both tried to, especially with the ones for this shelf, we both took those and tried to flex them when they were not attached to anything and could not do it. And those metal shelf brackets, unless they're the kind with the bar going like from here to here, I can take one of those and bend it to where they're touching.
I genuinely believe that the brackets that we printed for that video are stronger than generic L brackets you're going to buy in the store.
Yeah, I would say those are probably stronger than, at least as strong, if not stronger than anything you could buy in the store.
Unless it's made out of like angle iron, like thick angle iron.
Yeah, thick angle iron. Yeah, which I've never seen shelf brackets in a store just made out of that. You would have to custom fabricate something to make it stronger than those. I would be willing to bet.
And those are custom fabricated. I just printed those using that's New Maker's white PLA Pro and just the strength profile and Bamboo Studio on my P1P. Yeah. So to make a short story very long, yeah, we definitely trust 3D printed wall mounts. I'm using a PLA printed guitar neck mount to hold my strap to the wall. I'm using a much stronger one than the original one that I had because that failed. Being said, I had it mounted to the wall for 5 years before it just gave up on life. Printed weekly out of cheap generic filament. Let's see. What other ridiculous things do I have hanging? I have 3D printed pulleys that are holding weight that I've made. I would feel confident using 3D printed bracketry to secure certain sporting goods to the wall for display purposes. Yeah, tools. I have my tools in my shed are held to the wall with 3D printed bracketry.
Our friend Nathan, who is not here because he is sleeping in New York right now, has mounts to slide. Me and Nathan, who is sometimes in chat, both have the Lowe's brand Cobalt tools.
What's up, Matt German?
And he's got mounts that are shaped like the battery connector to connect the battery to the tool. And he hangs his tools above his workbench upside down on those.
I do that for my DeWalt tools. I have 3D printed brackets from my backpack, my grandpa's backpack. I actually just recently, I have it's actually a pretty cool one. I'm gonna go grab it because it's pretty. I 3D printed several years ago a carabiner on my backpack, and I never used it for anything up until recently. But I actually have just started using it for practical stuff. I went to Vegas a few weeks ago, and I used this to secure my backpack to my carry-on suitcase so I could get my backpack off my back, and it had just zero hesitation. Even the pin in this is 3D printed. 3D printed and glued together. This is brand filament. This is Polymaker black, and this like mint teal color is a really cool company out of Michigan called Printbed. Their whole shtick is, well, one, they make amazing quality filament. I've been really happy with their stuff, but they ship like next day. So it's like everything is a rush order. So John said the reason for asking was wanting to 3D print brackets to mount game consoles. I used to have my PS4 back before I sold it to build my first PC. I actually had my PS4 mounted underneath of a custom shelf that I made by using 3D printed brackets. So I would say as long as you use a suitable material, like honestly, a really good choice for something like that, in my opinion, would be like some carbon fiber PETG, because I love carbon fiber PETG. It's temperature resistant, doesn't require an enclosure, has the carbon fiber so it has increased stiffness. Like, I think that would be an amazing material choice. I would just be leery about doing it from PLA, and I would say you're going to want something that's going to be a little bit more stiff, so that way if it does start to heat up, it's not going to be as bad.
I wouldn't be that worried about doing it out of PLA. If you make the brackets thick like this, I wouldn't be concerned about mount. I would mount my PC on those brackets. Again, not with drywall anchors, but if I went into studs, I would set my PC on that shelf and not worry about it.
Well, your drywall is actually cardboard, not drywall, so I mean that's a factor there.
Yeah, you're not right. Again, what I'm saying is I'm not knocking the brackets. I just don't trust the wall that's attached to, because it's mounted with anchors. But in studs, yeah, 100%. I would just, if these screws were going into studs, I would set my PC on there and just not worry about it at all.
I would 100%, just based off material choice and depending on the type of mount is what I was getting at with the material choice, and also creep with PLA. I would 100% feel confident in mounting a gaming console. I've done it personally, and it lived there happily for a couple of years before I sold the system.
Like another thing that Rem did say, buy quality material. Like, buy it from a good manufacturer. Polymaker is probably one of the most well-known filament manufacturers, and they make great stuff.
That's because they're the largest filament manufacturer in the world.
Newmaker, we use a lot of Newmaker. I like Newmaker's filament a lot. I've had nothing but good luck with it so far.
I wouldn't even call it good luck. I would call it success.
Yeah, you're technically right, and according to Nick, that's the best kind of right.
I don't know if Nick is still here or not.
I don't know, but
I mean, just kind of figure out how hot your system gets and think about what kind of mount you're going to use and base your material choice off of that.
Also, if you're going to use a material between the actual bracket and the system, that will drastically eliminate your, like with what we did here, that's not really visible. It's almost visible in the stream, but there's a piece of wood on top of this, so like if you were doing that, this is probably what, 3/4 of an inch?
So, yes. Yeah, because those are 8x2s. 8x1s.
Yeah, it's a 1x. Anyways, probably 3/4 of an inch thick. Yeah, if you've got like a board on top of it, that's going to drastically reduce the amount of heat being transferred into the brackets.
I think the design, to make an inference here, I think the design motivation though is to use a solely 3D printed mount for the system, like I had my PS4, where it was underslung underneath of that shelf of mine.
Right.
So as long as your console's getting good airflow, that's another big thing.
I mean, if you're mounting it on something like that, especially if you do like 2 brackets and they're just slots that you can slot your console into, and it's open on the top and bottom to where, like Rem said, you're getting good airflow, your console should probably not kick enough heat into those brackets generally, I would think, to cause an issue.
I don't know how hot the new generation systems run though.
Well, the Xbox that I was running, very hot. If you did not have that little black circle on it is the vent. If you had something in front of that, very hot. If you had that free and clear, not that bad.
Now, that Xbox would be really easy to design a mount for. That would just be 2 rectangles. That would be really easy, and regardless of material, I would have no reservations with that.
Yeah, because it was super light.
Make a really short story long.
As long as we possibly can.
Send it.
Yeah, send it. You'll be fine.
No doubt, especially if you're using quality material.
And if you are using PLA and you're concerned about heat, make it a little bit thicker, a little bit more material.
Or just use a higher quality PLA.
Yeah, so there's PLA, and then there's what is PLA Pro or Pro PLA, whatever it is.
That's more impact resistance.
Gotcha. Either way, I don't think New Makers actually sells a regular PLA. It's all PLA Pro.
James said send it. PLA is disrespected. PLA is an incredibly underrated material. So there's this notion in 3D printing that PLA is your beginner material, and then eventually, after a certain point in time, you graduate beyond PLA. And that's just simply not true. PLA is the most common 3D printing filament there is for hobbyists because it's easy to print with and it's incredibly versatile. You can use it for decorative parts and functional parts just alike.
And also, it's one of the cheaper materials, and it would be really silly to buy a $45 spool of
Nylon.
Yeah, or more of nylon and then print something like this out of it. That would be absurd.
Yeah, especially considering your color options with nylon are black, white, gray.
And also, the other thing with stuff like this is, because we went in and bought a ton of New Makers filament, we got this for what, $13 a spool with the discount?
Yeah, something like that.
So, which, if you do want to buy some New Makers, they still got that discount code going on.
Absolutely.
Code RTMS at checkout.
RTMS at checkout saves you 5% on newmakers.com.
And again, if you buy 10 spools or more, I believe their PLA Pro is like $13 a spool.
They have tiered pricing, like we talked about a little while ago.
And it's not budget material. It's just, again, if you buy a lot of it, they will give you a discount for buying a bunch of it. And it's, again, we've had nothing but success with it.
We've talked with the guys over at New Makers several times, and I really enjoy working with them on things. They're a cool company. Same old 77. What is the average infill percentage you typically use versus number of walls? On average, I don't have an average. It depends exclusively on the project that I'm doing. Functional parts are going to vary depending on what the part is and where the load is being applied on how many walls I do versus infill. There is a big misconception, like PLA as a beginner material, there's a big misconception that adding infill alone adds strength. And depending on your print orientation, the infill pattern that you're using, and how the part is going to be used, infill alone does not add as much strength as a lot of people think it does.
Infill adds more crush resistance, but if you're like using this as a hook, the infill wouldn't really affect that on this part.
You're going to add more density in that area, and that's going to be more anchor points for the walls to stay connected to, but your infill would kind of be the weak link in that scenario once you get past layer adhesion.
My average is whatever's set in my slicer for the standard profile
because
for most of my prints.
Because he's the worst and doesn't optimize. But it all 100% depends on the kind of part that you're printing. So, do we have? Yes, we do. That is perfect. That is a perfect example.
Those brackets.
Yep. Okay. So this right here is a bracket the cameraman Beau and I designed. This was one of his very first ever CAD projects. And these brackets are designed to hang on the wall. To print 3 of these, and the top glass from a bamboo printer is designed to slot in the gap with it. So this part, this is the front with these chamfers. This part is designed for the load to be down and then kind of out. So the name of the game here is wall count. Top and bottom layers aren't even a factor in this piece. It was printed in this orientation, so the gap goes up. And by increasing the wall count, we're increasing the load strength for when it's tipping outward, which is also going to be partially held together by the screws going into the face of this. Now, one point of concern is weakness in the layers here, but it's a minimal load. You're going to get so much more strength. Like this, I cannot bend this part.
It's important to note that that was printed. I actually think I printed those at a 50% infill.
Oh, there's also a very high wall count here.
Yeah, like 6. It's like a 6 wall count and like 50% infill. So those are going to be really strong parts.
So they're stout.
This was printed with like 5% infill because it didn't need to be higher than that.
Yeah, one of the main jobs of infill is to add crush resistance and also to support your top and bottom layers and kind of just hold everything together. In most cases, by increasing your shell thickness, your walls and your top and bottom layers, you're going to have stronger parts. And there's this thought process that I just can't stand, that people want to increase their infill to 100% to print a solid part. You're better off setting your wall thickness to where it's all walls. Absolutely. Skinnier parts, I increase walls over infill. Absolutely. And that is exactly what you should be doing in those cases. 100% of the time. I will always suggest, in 99.9% of cases, you should be increasing your wall count, not your infill percent. I'm sure that a part made with thick enough walls is just as strong as a part with high infill percentage. James is suggesting rectilinear infill. I'm a big fan of cubic and gyroid for strength, for different kinds of strength. There are much smarter people than me who have done some really, really good videos here on YouTube about what type of infill pattern is the best, and I highly suggest watching those. It's super duper educational.
Yeah, also depending on what you're doing, changing your infill pattern could actually add more strength than upping your infill percentage with the same pattern. Like, if you take whatever infill pattern you're using and up your infill by 10%, might be less effective than just changing your infill pattern and leaving the percentage the same, is how I meant to phrase that.
Yeah, depending on what you're doing, some patterns are stronger than others, basically.
Yeah, what he said.
CNC Kitchen, absolutely, James. That's 100%. Stefan has done some amazing videos testing infill patterns. I cannot think of... You watched one relatively recently about the crush strength thing. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember who did that video. Was that Slant 3D? There are some great... Nonetheless, there are great videos here explaining way better than either of us are able to when to use what infill pattern. If you're speed printing, I can tell you, though, gyroid's going to slow you down because of all of the tool head movements. the longer, straighter lines that you can do, the faster your prints are going to be. Cubic and adaptive cubic. Cubic is a great choice. Cubic is the standard recommended infill for Avoron, followed by gyroid. I haven't tested the new infill yet, James. I'm curious about it. It's supposed to increase speed, right? I don't remember exactly what it is. It's not exactly making the same waves as like gyroid did back in the day, which I've been 3D printing a long time. I remember when gyroid was new. That was a big deal when we got that infill pattern. Yeah. You just had it. Orca Slicer just made a beta with it. Okay. I had to update your Orca Slicer to 2. No, I didn't even do the update. Your Orca Slicer's out of date.
That's because I don't really use Orca Slicer.
Just as strong as gyroid, but faster. All right, you've got my attention.
Have my attention.
Yeah, that is something that we're going to have to play around with. So, yeah, I mean, in most cases, walls are going to be your better choice in infill. Top and bottom layers are also, most of the time, a better choice. You use rectilinear 100%. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people just kind of draw the line in the sand. I can't even remember the last time I actually changed my infill pattern. It might have been to go from cubic to gyroid for something that I was doing. Yes, 99 walls over 100% infill all day. Absolutely the case. 100% infill used to cause issues. All right, guys. So, kind of just recap a little bit of what we did today. We talked a lot about prints. We just talked a lot about infill. I got a cool hat.
I also got a cool hat.
We have a cool shirt. And we 3D printed a cool thing for hats out of some quality material. We talked about why we have new microphones and that expensive mistake.
High five. Proud of you.
Yeah. I almost cried. Let's see. Let's see if an hour, how that does. It started to creep. I'm going to have to hit this with the heat gun. Pushing plastic to its limits or making dumb toys. Yes, absolutely. Although I will say your experience in pushing plastic to the limits is really exciting. That was really cool. Thank you for sending those pictures. Guys, that's kind of the show today. I mean, we managed to turn... The only thing that I cared at all about really getting into was I wanted to show you guys this hat thing and the seatbelt clips that Beau made. Talk a little bit about the merch and the filament dehydrator. Yeah, Calyx, that was, so if you want to see why we have new mics, that's like the story at the top of the show. That was how we started the show, was telling that sad tale, that sad, expensive tale.
Sad, hilarious tale.
Dude, that hurt me on the inside. But, I mean, we turned very little game plan into 2 hours, and I'm really happy that we've had a consistent, like, 6 to 8 people hanging out. Like, not the 50 that we had last Friday, but this is still more than we typically average, and that's really exciting. That is really exciting. That means that we have more people coming in to hang out in the show and talk to us and hang out.
Also, for those of you who are here, thanks for keeping the chat rolling.
Yeah, honestly, if you guys weren't like hanging out and talking and chat, we would have had no show tonight.
This would have ended at least 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
maybe an hour ago.
100%. I mean, the more of you guys that we have in here hanging out and talking, the longer and easier it is for us to be able to hang out and just chill. Yeah, James, things are absolutely growing. We're about to hit 1,500 subs, man. So, having nothing else planned, and we need to go film a sponsor segment and get back to work and editing next week's video. I would like to thank you all for coming to hang out. It's been fun. It's been real, and it's definitely been real fun.
Sorry for your eardrums. I just smacked something into my mic because I'm an idiot. I'm sorry to everyone's eardrums if you're wearing headphones.
You're about to lose microphone privileges. You're going to go back to the other side of the camera.
I deserve to lose microphone privileges, honestly.
Y'all have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a safe weekend. Have fun.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Remember, rtms.tech for sweet hats, dope shirts, and newmakers.com/rtms for great filament deals.